Ryanair's CFO has warned some struggling airlines will go to the wall at the end of the year as the fuel crunch caused by the conflict in the Middle East continues. Neil Sorahan told CNBC the budget carrier has contingency plans for some kind of Armageddon situation, but intends to operate a full schedule through the European summer. The warning came after Ryanair reported one-year profits of more than $2.5 billion, up 40% from the previous year. But the budget carrier saw revenue plunge more than 10% to around $18 billion. And with the conflict in the Middle East pushing up energy prices, Ryanair has hedged its jet fuel costs, buying 80% of its summer fuel for less than $700 a metric tonne, or $67 a barrel. But 20% still remains unhedged, so is subject to price spikes. Meanwhile, budget carrier Transavia has begun a cost-cutting drive in the Netherlands. Its French arm has cancelled 2% of its flights in May and June. Paul Charles is CEO of the PC Agency, a luxury travel consultancy. Always lovely to have you on the programme, Paul. So, Ryanair says it can ride this out, but does this fuel shock expose how vulnerable the low-cost airline model is?
I think all airlines are vulnerable in some way at the moment due to the unpredictability of the Iran conflict, most of all, and the pressure it's putting on the global economy. There's no doubt that Ryanair has had a fantastic last year. To increase profits by 40% is very impressive during such a period of turmoil. But of course, it's the next year that's going to be absolutely critical to its future success. And I think there's a danger that, as Ryanair says, there will be certainly one or two carriers across Europe, those smaller low-cost carriers, who do find it very difficult to navigate this very unpredictable situation.
Now, we've already seen Spirit collapse in the US. I know they had problems that preceded the current crisis, but do you think weaker budget airlines in Europe or Asia now come under more pressure?
Yes, Spirit was already in financial Armageddon to some extent after going through bankruptcy twice over the last 2 years. It all depends. If you're a small airline, where you've hedged your fuel during this critical period, if you've bought your fuel well in advance at a price that you've been able to put into your forecast, then it does make navigating this crisis much easier. But there are some smaller airlines who would have taken a gamble, like many American carriers who don't hedge their fuel, and they would have taken this gamble on the basis they'd be able to ride out any crisis at whatever price. But they would assume that price would be under $100 a barrel. And of course, it's now at about 110 or so and could go much higher. So there will be a lot of nervous CEOs at the moment if they haven't hedged their fuel, and they'll be wondering what lies ahead.
You and I have talked, as this crisis has unfolded, about the impact this is having on long-haul flights. But let's focus on the short-haul, which is still very popular. Ryanair even saying that demand is still super strong. Do you think that higher fuel costs are maybe changing how aggressively low-cost airlines can price their seats this summer?
Low-cost airlines are in a difficult position. They're seeing the economy cabins overall a lot lower in terms of occupancy than they would have expected, a lot lower in terms of their load factors. Normally at this time of year, they'd be more confident about those load factors, they'd be higher, but we're buying, certainly in economy cabins, much later. We're leaving it until the 11th hour before deciding whether to take a vacation, whether to pay the price that's on offer. And this is what's worrying so many low-cost carriers. They're not sure at what price they're going to be selling those seats. So there's a lot of hope in the industry at the moment around whether they're going to sell those seats in many cases. And the same applies to long-haul carriers as well, whether they're low cost or not. They're not filling the economy cabins as fast as they would like. Premium cabins, not a problem. Those business classes are filling very nicely, thank you, at very high prices. But the economy cabins, it's more nerve-wracking in that space.
Paul Charles, great to chat. Thanks very much.
Thank you.